There's so many ways to cook a steak. One of my personal favorites is to do it old school style in a hot pan with oil, butter, aromatics like thyme and garlic. Yes, it's easier to mess up. It is easier to overcook your steak. Yes, you will have more of a doneness gradient than if you use a method like sous vide or the reverse sear. But man, do you get flavor in return. You get the most crunchy, crusty, roasted exterior to the meat that you can imagine. And if you do it right, it's still tender and juicy and beautiful in the center. What kind of steaks can you use for this? Any tender, quick cooking cut. So like tenderloins, also known as filet mignon, ribeyes like I have here, T-bones, porterhouses, strip steaks, skirt steaks, hanger steaks, anything that remains tender even when it's rare or medium rare. The other thing I've done in advance of cooking the steak is I have done what's called a dry brine. What that means is I season the steak all over with salt. Top, bottom, sides. I had it on a wire rack and I let it air dry actually this was overnight, but at least 1 hour. That's enough time for the salt to draw out moisture from the steak. Then it gets real wet and kind of puddly on top as this brine forms on the top. And still enough time for it to reabsorb that moisture. You only want to dry brine if you have enough time to allow the steak to dry off before you put it in the pan. Moisture is the enemy of good browning. We always want the steak dry. This is a fast method where things kind of, they don't happen instantaneously, but you need to be ready. You have to have everything mise en place. Mise en place, can I verbify it like that? Everything, have a nice mise en place, all set up. You don't want to have to be running to your refrigerator, finding your thyme sprigs or anything like that once you start. As soon as the steak goes in the pan, you're on until it's out of the pan. I've got my oil to start it off, neutral oil, high smoke point. This is canola. I got my steak. Got my butter that I'll add to the pan after I get the initial sear on this and then start basting it. I have some nice fresh thyme, flavor, and garlic. Got my instant read thermometer to take the temp on the steak. I also have some tongs. I have a slotted offset spatula. And very importantly for butter basting, I have a nice big spoon to baste with. You just want that oil as hot as it can get. Flirting with the smoke point. All right, this oil's smoking. Ready? Steak. We're gonna flip it every like 15, 20 seconds. That old cooking tip that you should not flip your meat too much is not true. The more you flip it, the more even of a doneness you'll get in the center. That's what the spatula's for. Flip it. And what we're going for here is just a nice, hard sear right at the beginning. Nice crust. The reason I don't add the butter too early is because I want to get a really good sear on this steak first, and butter has some water content that will drop the temperature of the pan a bit when it first goes in, but also it has milk solids that will scorch and burn the longer it's in the pan. So I really want to just get this super, super, super high heat with the oil first to get that really good sear. Then I can add the butter. I can even lower the heat a little bit. In goes the butter, in goes the thyme, in goes the garlic. Tip the pan and baste. In this butter, it's infusing now with the garlic and thyme flavor. The milk solids are browning and taking on a deeper, more complex flavor. And by doing this, I'm also cooking the steak from the top and bottom at the same time. It's kind of enveloping it in this intense, scalding hot fat. You still want to flip that steak. If you leave it too long on any one side, it's always going to cook more intensely from the bottom up, so you'll get an uneven doneness. For me, this just scratches every carnivorous muscle in my body. Get some of that fat on the edges to render a little bit. Yeah, I'm gonna take this out. All right, here we go. Moving it over to here. Let it rest. You can see there's a little rim of gray. It's a little bit more of a gradient, but to be honest, it's not that extreme. And otherwise the steak is cooked perfect medium rare, which is harder to do with this method than the other ones, which really kind of make it easier to nail the doneness. I think I'll just take a bite. Oh, so tender. Oh my God, whoa. What you really get here is just this profound, seared, crispy crust and such good roasty flavor. And every bite, you can hear in your ear this like potato chippy kind of crinkle as the crust crackles between your teeth. It is really good. It's so good.